Oops, you did it again. Dave, you
Yes, man.
fucking pissed off a lot of people again.
Dude, I
Talking
just
about
do that,
Ant,
don't I?
J-Dub. I mean, look, I thought you made a hell of a point, and I understand some of the other points that are being made. But before we get too much into J-Dub and Ant, because we have a lot to say about that, but that's a tease. Let's talk about what we really came here to talk about. I have a
Man,
question for you, Dave.
yeah, for sure, man. Let's just get
Yeah.
into it, why don't we? I mean, we're throwing elbows here, and every single time that I feel like you stop the conversation one way and then you ask me a question, we're about to get a backlash. So I'm bracing for it. So what's the backlash, man? What are we talking
Is
about?
Josh Giddey the best passer in the NBA?
Oh, this is gonna piss people off. I love it, bro. This is really gonna upset some people, man. Let's get into it, dude, because I mean, for the first time, and I wouldn't say in a long history of the game, the best passer in the league, I would consider as an open statement. Because some people will say Luka is it, some people will say Jokic is the best passer. Some people say Chris Paul, but none of them have exemplified the all-around passing game that Josh Giddey does. Okay, so Luka is phenomenal across the court passes, right? I mean, he's decent at passing the ball in balance, but phenomenal passing on ball across court. Chris Paul's vision is legendary. The passes that bounce passes between the smallest of spaces, right? You've got Jokic who could throw the ball anywhere and up above people and all around, But the combination of all these things, I mean, you have to go back to elite, very fucking elite amount of people in the game to say that Josh Giddey, comparatively, because if you look at his inbounds passes, you look at his alley oop, and people say it's weak. Well, it's weak because he hasn't had somebody that's outstanding to throw it to. And then we can keep getting down to all these things that Josh brings to the table. And again, as far as all around passer from, you know, baseline to baseline, I think Josh Giddey has to be the best passer in the league.
So
Yeah.
obviously he didn't.
Hilberton, I agree. Hilberton is nuts.
Halbert, yeah.
Hilberton is a hell of a passer, dude. Like I I get it. Luca's but Luca's cross court vision and finding the open guy is truly spectacular. And I've always brought up Luca is because, in my opinion, when we're playing against Luca, which we do a lot, he just tears us apart by the passing.
Yeah.
And that's why I look at it and I'm like, okay, there's very few guys that can tear us apart in the passing like Luca does. And if you look and break down what Luca can do in the vision that he sees, I mean, it's special. And I get it. Um, Halberton is phenomenal, but I mean, Luca's something special.
All right. So next question, bro, about this. Like I think if we were to ask everybody who's the best inbound passer in the league, everybody listening at least, they would say that's Giddy, right? So part of this, what we have to do is look at trajectory. Okay, you have to say like where was he when he entered the league? Where is he going? How are teams defending him?
Sure.
How is he improving against those types of defenses? And all those things. And yeah, you could look at it and say like there are certain people who have more assists, or there are other players who have different things. But for his usage, having an All NBA player on his team,
Sure.
right? He relies on the pass, and his whole team relies on the pass, and coach uses it to keep the ball moving from side to side. But then there's a special side of it where he threads the needle for an assist. Those types of passes where he shifts the defense with his eyes and then he throws the ball the other way.
But it's shifting the defense, but it's shifting the offense with his eyes. He's shifting the player that he's going to with his eyes. I think that's where I look at Josh Giddey, and you know, you got to go
Yeah,
to
Brian, for sure.
yeah, you got to go to Jason Kidd. I mean, I Steve Nash. I mean, you got to go to some of the greats when it comes to passing and compare them to early in their careers because you don't see somebody that's this mature as a passer at this young of an age ever. You just don't. I mean, the fact that you have to go back in the last 20 years and you probably can pick out a handful of guys that has exemplified the passing abilities that Josh does as a second year, a handful of them. And so then that's why I'm going back and I'm saying, for me, like Like Jokic was a phenomenal passer, but he wasn't at Josh Giddey's level at year 2. You know,
No, that's no doubt.
you know, we can go Luka the same thing, and Halberton, blah 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 blah, the same thing. You know, I love names, man. They fuck me up so bad it's not even funny, man. But
I always think Dick Cheney, Halliburton, and that gets me there every time.
But again, it's about that. Like I'm glad we got Henry.
What's up, Henry? What's
About
up, Brian?
Talking about this right here. I love it, man. Okay, so check this out. I want to be honest. We'll get back to Josh Giddey and the rest of the pastors in a second, but you know,
Okay,
I want to get this real fast.
let's get this, Henry.
All right. So would I rather have Ant or J-Dub on my team? I think that's where we started, right? J-Dub. And this is why I want to make sure everybody understands is that Ant is a good competitor, right? But when he came last year back to the NBA after the break, I mean, Zion-esque is what I would consider it. I mean, people are like, oh, he was in the gym. Look at his muscles. No, listen, man. It took him 2 or 3 months to get back in shape, right? And everybody's like, he's the best player on that team. Well, think about that. If he came into the season in shape, he would have been a much better player. But I don't. If the Oklahoma City Thunder win 53 games, right? Like we think they're going to win 50 plus games this next year, right? Minnesota Timberwolves aren't going to win that many games. They're just not. They're just going to suck. They're going to find a way that you know Ant gets injured, or you know Rudy Gobert gets injured, or you know everybody knows that. My point exactly. He gets injured all the time.
Well, so I'd say players who are built like linebackers, who are a little heavier, and tend to end up, you know, falling harder.
Henry, do research, bro. Just do research. Go look at Anthony Edwards, the beginning of 2022. Use your fucking brain, bro. Get out of here with this shit, man.
It's all good. Listen, I'm not worried about any of this stuff because in the end, what we're looking at, once again, like we talked about with Giddey, it's trajectory. Ant was the number 1 pick in the draft for his draft. And everybody can look at him and say, like, he has superstar potential. Sure. There's no doubt. If you're pick number 1,
but he's in Minnesota, so his superstar potential goes about 3 inches.
That's when you start wondering, like, his ceiling. Because I can list a bunch of players who were drafted number 1 who had incredible starts to their career, and it hurts it to say, but like
it hurts when your favorite player is a fat ass. I get it.
But like Blake Griffin, right? He had one of the best rookie campaigns in the NBA history, at least in the last 20 years, for sure. And you look at like what happened. Well, the problem was the organization didn't have the tools to help him develop his game to become the level of player that he needed to become so that he was remembered as an all-time great. Ant has the potential to be an all-time great. Nobody's arguing with that, right? But will he become? And then that's when we look at the Timberwolves and we say there are questions about the organization.
It's the same thing for KG. KG learned the most important lesson. In order to become one of the greats, you got to get the fuck out of Minnesota.
You got to get the fuck out of Minnesota.
Get the fuck out of Minnesota. And I think that's the thing. It's so
sad. I wish it wasn't
so
like that.
delusional that even Minnesota people are in this idea that they have this beautiful, unbelievable organization. And I just laugh because you traded 5 first-round draft picks or 3 first-round draft picks for Rudy Gobert.
Yeah, I think it was 5, and it was swapped. It was dude. Listen, don't. But I know it's like Ant's chance.
They just shot themselves in the foot for 5 fucking years.
I know. If they really believed in Ant, they should have built around Ant, not built around. But anyway, we're not going to get into that because that's part of the problem. Like, it's like having termites, right? Like you can't ever actually build anything. It might look really good from the outside, but like it's gonna collapse. Like they go all in on getting to the 7th seed or the 8th seed, and it's like great, but that's like your peak. And from like now they're already talking about moving past Towns because they're like, oh, Towns has, you know, he's not a winner. Like how long till they're saying the same shit about Ant? Not long, okay? Because these types of things last about 5 years before people get sick of it, and then they're like, oh well, you can't win around this player. Look, they went through Zach LaVine, they went through Jimmy Butler, they're about to go through Ant, and they're blaming the players. And listen, that's why when I look at J-Dub,
Minnesota has to be the worst organization, worst organization of all sports in the last 20 years.
Stop. Listen, you can't when you talk about J-Dub, you can't look at him and say a player who led the league in dunks from the guard position, who shown potential to be able to shoot about 40+% from behind the arc, has mid-range game that's just absolutely killer, and is an elite defender, right? You can't say that a player like that just isn't in the ballpark of your favorite player. Now, he might have only averaged 13 points and averaged like 24. I get
I'm
why
just
people are
saying.
looking
I'm
at
just
that,
saying
but
if
we have to go back to trajectory.
if
This is not like
Minnesota called us.
J-Dub has been in the league for longer than Ant.
Yeah.
Ant's been in for longer, even though he got in younger. J-Dub wasn't even an elite prospect by the time Ant was the number 1 pick. Like, they're on different trajectories.
So different.
Right. And so
it's like
but
night
games,
and day, or you could say like anything, man. Like I've never seen a different trajectory as this, because the reality is that if Minnesota was intelligent, they would have kept their 5 picks built around Anthony Edwards and traded everybody else. That's the problem with this. Now they're sitting in here, they're getting older guys. They have 30-year-old guys that, yes, they eliminated us from the playoffs, but congratulations. They're fucking old ass people now. Like, they got one young guy and maybe a couple young guys that are worth it, but their money they're paying out their ass for a 7 seed.
Okay, so let's take it this a bigger picture, right? For the Thunder, because we're not here to tell Minnesota why their team sucks. Like, I think everybody else can do that for us. But listen, here's the thing, okay? When you have an all-NBA player,
can say it.
Like SGA, right? And you've got a player like Chet coming on that we believe has a chance to lead the league in blocks, okay? You got a player that we're looking at in J-Dub who we think has all NBA talent and all NBA ability.
In the next 3 years, he's going to get to that level.
And we've got Josh Giddey, who we believe is the best passer in the league. Okay.
And we haven't even talked about Shea, who was an all NBA team.
Right. And we got Isaiah Joe coming off the bench, who leads the league in 3-point percentage off the bench, and really second in the whole league behind Steph, as far as I remember at the end of the season. Like, people are underselling the Thunder. A lot of people want to sit back and I see all the Thunder YouTube videos that people who are posting and stuff, and they all want to say like the Thunder are scary, the Thunder are about to take over the NBA, they're like all these big things.
Sure.
But nobody's saying this is about to happen right now. Okay. Here's my question. Okay. If the Thunder go on to win a championship in the next few years, okay, which I believe is a total possibility.
Completely.
It would be the equivalent of people saying that Ant is better than Klay Thompson. Right? Like, oh yeah, but he can average 30. Like, yes, but like if we're winning championships and he's sitting there on the 8th seed, ain't nobody gonna make that argument.
I know, but that's my whole point about it, is that like people are getting stuck about Ant this and Ant that, but the reality is of what's happened is that it's going to be Ant and nobody else, because they have no draft picks. They got nothing else. So when they move on from Towns, and when they move on from Gobert, and Gobert brings them back 1 draft pick, 1st round draft pick, right? They'll be able to have that draft pick to be around Ant, and then they'll be able to take whatever they, if he's not injured, can continue getting injured, and then they'll be sitting in a position that they're like, okay, now we have nothing but Ant. And you're right, Ant by himself might be good enough for an 8 seed, but Ant,
he's not. He's not.
I don't get it. All right, man. We got Caleb here. Let's enter the portal. What's up, Caleb?
What up, guys? What up?
What up, man?
We're just stirring some pot. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, dude. I just tuned in. You guys were talking about VR and all that. So, what else is new?
Yeah, I mean,
exactly.
I think looking at what we're going in and talking about, but a lot of people don't think that Ant and J-Dub is a fair assessment. They think that Ant is so much better and his potential is so much better than J-Dub. But how do you feel about that?
Look, I'll be real. If I could pick one right now to have on this team, it would be Anthony Edwards for sure, just because I think he lines up with Shea as like, and for the skill set right now to compete. If I was thinking like tries who I want, it's definitely a debate. I think the benefit to debate is we have more of a track record for him, right? But he's been in the league now for 4 years. He was the number 1 overall pick. He's lived up to the hype that he's had around him. You could even argue he's exceeded that hype, right? Like he's probably one of the most guards in the league, 100%, probably in the top 5 in that conversation. So
how much do you think organization and development is going to play into like the long-term, like say when we're looking back in 10 years from now, like Do you think Ant has enough to like put the whole organization on his shoulder and change the track record for the Wolves?
Dude, that Wolves team has just, like, I'm not one to talk, right? But as an outsider looking in, just so mismanaged, right? They really haven't developed young talent extremely well. Maybe Ant is, the best case for that development. That's why I think, like J Dub is in the perfect situation. He's still young enough to, compete, but at the same time, like, learn from guys like Shea. And he's even said how much of his game he's modeled after Shea. So it's like, who else would you rather have him learning a day in, day out basis? And he's in an organization that's going to be patient enough with him, but also reward him for when he delivers. Like, he was starting last.
Sure.
I mean, like, as a rookie on a team that won, what did we win? 42 games last.
Yeah.
So
40, I think.
Well,
yeah.
All right. Here's the question I have for you. Let's back this up and say last year you take Chet away from the draft, right? And you put Ant in that draft. All right. And you know what J-Dub's going to bring to the table. Does it go Paulo 1, Ant 2, J-Dub 3? How does that go?
I'm trying to even remember, like, in that draft, like, just how I felt about him getting picked there at number 1. I feel like there was kind of some controversy around it. He was kind of just like
sorry. I'm sorry. Did I do that wrong, Mark? What draft am I talking about?
I thought you did it right.
Okay, good. All right. I'm just making sure. All right.
Yeah.
I don't know. Make sure J-Dub. I had to count that one. I'm like, wait a second. What, are we talking about the right one? Yeah. Paulo and J-Dub in the same draft. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. That's probably a good order.
Yeah. Because I as much as I want to say that Ant would go number 1 against Paulo, I just struggle with that. Like, because like he's not what the Orlando would have wanted.
He's got elite talent, and I understand why this is an upsetting conversation for Wolves fans. It's like, is it possible that our second or third best player is better than their best player down the line? And like, fine, like, we have to go out and win championships. Like,
That's not what we have to prove.
Like, there's no doubt about that. We're not going to get any respect until we do that. But for me, like, the idea that Ant is just because he's more physical, he's like, that also relates to being like a better athlete. I think I can challenge that. Like, there's different types of physicality. And I think Ant plays like basketball like it's football, which is great. Like, that works. But in the end, J-Dub plays like this graceful game like MJ or like Kobe, where like he will go physical, but he's finesse to the highest level. And I think there's something that is spectacular about it that makes that my imagination kind of jumps on. I'm like, he could keep pushing his game. If he gets to become a 40% three-point shooter, he lifts up his volume in shooting, he could easily average 22. And once you get into that spot, it's like, could he average 28 on a bad team? Yes. Like, once you're in that spot, then people will respect you based on your team's winning and sacrifices you're making. So yeah, he's never going to average as many points, but like, our team never needs him to. And that's something to take into consideration.
Yeah. And all right, Caleb, let's switch course here and stop talking about Ant. But let's go talk about Josh Giddey, since we have you here, Caleb. I know you're a Josh Giddey fan.
Shane, Jaden, what's up, guys?
All right. So I'm going to give you some few players here, and I want you to kind of rank where you believe that Josh fits in this order. All right.
Okay.
Let's go Chris Paul, Luka, Jokic, and Tyrese Haliburton.
From a passing perspective?
From a passing perspective only.
Right now, or like in their primes?
Right now. 2020, start of the 2023-2024 season.
I would probably put Luka last, just because I think I see him more as a scoring guard rather than I do as a pass.
Okay.
I have to put Jokic 1. I would probably put Giddey 2. Offset between Tyrese and Chris Paul. The thing that Tyrese Haliburton and Chris Paul have to their benefit is their assist to turnover ratio is like super high.
Sure.
They do not turn the ball over. I don't know what Giddey's is off the top of my head.
Sure.
Just get back and he's a second-year player. I imagine it's not super efficient, but very efficient. He's a high IQ basketball player. So
I like it. And you know what I like about that is that it's what we've been saying too, is that we feel like Josh Giddey is the best passing guard in the league. You can compare him to anybody you want, but the fact that he stands 6'9", he's so efficient from passing out the ball from out of balance. I mean, it's an almost guaranteed 2 points, or at least a really good shot when he passes the ball in balance underneath the hoop or on the side. And then you put him in the open court, and he just makes decisions just like these other guys. So hell yeah, man. I appreciate you echoing that, because that's just something that we've talked a lot about, is where do you rank Josh as far as guards in the league?
I'm super high. I really feel like in terms of a backcourt partner with Shea, you couldn't ask for too much better of a guy. So long as his 3-point shooting continues to improve, and it did last year from his first year. And so now that we have Chip, right? It's Chip England.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Chip we trust. That's right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. 100%. And
Chip
so
will
it's
bring
like
the chip.
Yeah, he needs to keep improving. But it's like, dude, if this guy gets to a 35, even at most a 37% 3-point shooter, and if he's 3 or 4 attempts per game at most, I think that he's not ball dominant. He's not a score first guy. He's looking to create, and he's looking to make the smart and the right play. And he's our superstar, right? 1,000%. I also think, given the fact that he's also like the oldest and he's the most developed from that standpoint, it's just like it's a symphony together, you know.
I like it.
Yeah, man. I'm stoked on our backcourt, man. I think the thing I'm most looking forward to, and this is kind of messed up to say at the same time, but it's like I want to see Jade make just such a massive leap that, in a way, also play extremely well on the defensive side. I would like to see we can manage to put them as our starting 3, Shea and Giddey. And unfortunately, I think that makes. But I'm looking at guys like maybe Patrick Williams on the Bull.
Yeah.
Or even Mark, I know you're super high on him, but Mikal Bridges. I commented on one of your guys' videos last week saying it'd be epic for Mikal at, the 3 or the 4, right? The combo forward. Man, I don't know. I'm hyped.
Sure. Yeah.
I think it's important to recognize that that's how close this team is. Like a lot of people are saying, I don't think that J-Dub can make this leap into a top tier player, but what he did at the second half of the season last year, right? And what we've seen Shea do before Shea's big leap, and he'd had a mild first half. In the second half, he started putting up 30-point games, and then all of a sudden the next season came back and averaging 30. For me, I watched J-Dub in that second half and averaging like 20 something points a game, 24 or whatever. There's no way in my mind that he doesn't take that jump like that the second year, where he's averaging 23 to 26 points a game. And people are like, that's impossible. No, but it's not, because it's inside of the system. He's put the weight on to be able to handle all the physical contact that he's going to get. And the thing is that people aren't going to think he's our second best scorer until halfway through the season.
Then you realize it's like he's already got momentum, and you're having a game plan against the second best player who wasn't really high on your depth chart early. He's definitely shown that ability. I got to ask you before you get out of here, Caleb, where are you at in Istanbul? Or are you on to Romania now?
Just arrived last night in Bucharest, so it's really cool here, man. It's really beautiful. Airbnb, I walked around this morning, found a cafe. Dude, there's beautiful women all over the place. So I'm just like, hey, this is fantastic.
Well, good luck with that, man. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
I love Romanian women.
For the month. Nice, dude.
Awesome.
Are you gonna probably make it your home after a month, man?
I heard that. We will see.
You already have your life planned there now. After like one walk, you're like, oh my god, I get a 10 no matter which way I go.
Dude, there's this girl I fell in love with when I was like 12 or 13. and she was Romanian. Rebecca Kopu, shout out
yeah.
Rebecca Kopu.
Nice.
One of many guys to
Hell
fall
yeah,
in
bro.
love.
I forgot about that,
I
man.
know.
Oh, you were all over. You wrote our poem, didn't you?
Dave, let's talk about something else.
That's how you know it's real, bro. That's how you know it's real when you're 12 or 13, writing poems in a letter that you're folding to your crush. You know.
Secret folding way.
Yeah.
I need to go to Romania.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Good stuff, guys. I'm gonna jet out because I'm in the middle of my work day, but I want to come join in for a bit.
Hell yeah, Caleb.
Oh man, we appreciate
it, man.
you, Caleb.
All right, make sure you stick around. Make sure it uploads 100%.
For sure. Peace.
All right,
All right, appreciate it.
peace. What's up, Milwani?
Yeah, Blake. Doing? What's up, guys? All right,
Good
man.
shit.
I love it, dude. I think it's great. You know, for me, sometimes I am a homer, and I know we're talking Oklahoma City Thunder fans being homers. You know what I'm saying? You know,
Plus Henry.
Yeah, plus Henry. And Matthew Garcia, he's another longtime listener now. So we appreciate you, Matthew. But you know, this whole thing to us, man, it's we're just having fun. I mean, like, I understand that you guys are, like, your takes are delusional. Like, I don't give a shit. I mean, like, we make fun of the people that give us bad reviews. Why do we make fun of it? Is because it's fucking shitty ass reviews and they're funny.
Honestly, like, the funny thing about the Ant and J-Dub thing was we were just talking about the team, right? And then all of a sudden you kind of said, like, you kind of mentioned Ant in comparison, and then like all of a sudden it became like a side thing. And now
it was 6 months apart that I kept on looking at. I'm like, they're 6 months apart. They're similar in body size.
Right.
You know, people might want to say that.
That's the other thing is, like, Ant isn't nearly as tall as J-Dub.
No,
like J-Dub's like a 6'6", 6'7", and I think Ant's like 6'4". If you look at what he's listed at, he's listed around 6'4". I'm like, that makes a difference.
You know, I'll tell you this, Henry. You know, you said Ant Edwards puts the fear in Oklahoma City Thunder. The only thing that Ant Edwards does in Oklahoma City, man,
Dave.
No, I shouldn't say that. Should I say that?
Look, it was an extremely physical game. Shea ended up with a black eye, with a cut over his eye, with a chipped tooth. Like, it was extremely physical. And I think, like, the thing that you have to keep in mind is we were the second youngest team in NBA history. Only
second youngest
younger. So
NBA team
don't
in
worry,
NBA history. Dude. It taught us a lesson. It taught us a lesson,
and we will eventually. We're gonna be out there. Listen, we will throw some bows. We will not be the only ones getting black eyes by the end of it. Like, J-Dub,
I promise you this,
against the Wolves.
If we play the Wolves in the first round, it will be because we're the 3 seed, right? And we're playing the Wolves in the and I promise you this,
we're gonna.
We as Oklahoma City Thunder fans will provide the lube for all the Wolves fans to know when they just got fucked. Right? Like, we as Oklahoma City fans at least provide lube. We don't expect to go in there dry. We don't expect to go there like tearing shit up. We provide the lube for you so that you can at least have a good experience in Oklahoma City as you watch your team just get dominated by the third youngest team in NBA history next year.
That's it, baby.
It's like, I get it. Like, I get it. You're passionate. We got fans from Houston. We pissed off. Mark and I talked about fans from what was that other team that
Orlando? We pissed them off.
But what was the other team that we pissed off?
Maybe?
The other Texas team. I can't remember their name.
Spurs.
Oh yeah, fucking Spurs.
So
dude, it's the Spurs people called us. The Spurs people called us outright, right, Mark?
Yeah,
they just did. And like, to me, like, it is the way it is. The Dylan Brooks of basketball podcast, and I'm okay with that. Thank you, Matthew Garcia, for calling us that. We appreciate you guys. We'll be back tomorrow. Some fresh takes, but I will tell you this. There is no better point guard in the league than Josh Giddey that is under 24 years old. And there's no one else that can convince me otherwise, because I would rather have Josh Giddey than Morant. And the reason I would is because baggage that comes with Morant, the price tag comes from Morant. And Josh Giddey is one of those guys that when we're all said and done and he breaks these records, that people are going to say, how the fuck did Josh Giddey go number 6?
Thank you for joining The Last Storm, where we